Hello, Grumpy Old Fart here. Um, this is a family game night story about a game of Recon I actually played in. Somebody else was running it years ago. Uh, Turns out I had been running a Recon game, and one of my players decided he wanted to run a game, and that's great. I got no problem with that. I'll gladly play in somebody's game. Um, Now this guy was a fairly new player. He'd only been playing 4 or 5 months, but he had played primarily Recon, so he knew the system pretty well. Um, and anytime a player wants to advance and become a game master, I'm all for that. I'll help them any way I can. And one of the best ways to do that is to play in their game so they learn. You can't do it. You can't learn unless you do it. And playing is fun, but if you're going to run games, you have to learn how to do it. The best way to learn is to do it. So he wanted to play, and he wanted to run a game, and I said, sure, I'll play, no problem. And we got 3 other players to come in and play with us: John, Chaz, and George. John was running a medic and an intel specialist. Chaz was running a grenadier and a medic. Uh, Everybody has 2 MOSs in that game, so primary and secondary. George was the pigman RTO. A pigman uses an M60 machine gun, and an RTO is the radio guy, which is essential in this game. And I was running the point man, the heavy weapons. Now, I didn't use any heavy weapons at the time, but I was using my submachine gun, and I take that back, I was using M16. And so we got up, we were going to go on this mission, and this kid had been reading a lot in the Recon books, and he had a bunch of books on Vietnam, and he had come up on a story apparently that he really wanted to run, and so we agreed to play in his game. Um, the mission was that about 2 clicks from the fire base that our characters were at, there was a village, and under this village apparently they discovered a tunnel complex, and they needed people to go and clean this place out. So our characters got assigned to go do that, and that's cool. And everything went well. We got to the village. They had a little bit of resistance, but not a lot. And then we went down into the tunnel system, and that's where the problem started. We entered the tunnels, and excuse me, the Viet Cong had guards at every intersection, and these guards were all asleep. Despite the firefight up top, they were all asleep, because every time I'd see one, I'd shoot him, and he would die. And I would move forward to that position, and down the tunnel there'd be another guy there asleep, and I'd go, and he would die. And I'd move to that position, and down the tunnel there'd be another guy asleep, and I'd go, and he'd die. Evidently, this guy didn't take into account that rifle fire makes noise, and a rifle fire in tunnels echoes very loudly. Well, especially M16 ammo. So yeah, all of his guys were asleep. But that wasn't the main problem with the scenario that I saw. And keep in mind, this guy's new, so I didn't say anything, because you don't criticize people's gaming style. You help them to mature and learn. That's the whole point. But this was kind of funny, because apparently he read a story where the Viet Cong had stolen a tank, an army tank. And I don't remember what kind, might have been French or something, English. Anyway, but they'd stolen a tank, and they buried it in the ground, and they had a tunnel system around it, and everything still worked, the motor and the lights and everything, the electricity was still going, and they were using it as a bunker. The communications were all working and everything, and they were using this thing as a bunker. And the VC, again, say what you want, they were some industrious people, very smart. They knew how to fight in their home terrain, and they were good at it. They were the epitome of a guerrilla warrior. They were awesome as far as that goes. Now, that being said, this guy apparently read that story and decided to go hog wild with it. Every 200 yards in the tunnel, we'd come to an intersection, and there was a tank buried there. Excuse me. we got through the first 3 of them and decided that was enough because we were getting the snot kicked out of us. So we turned around and went back. We went out, got on the radio, and called in for some reinforcements. For those of you who don't know, fighting a tank is hard. Fighting a tank with a machine gun is hard. Fighting a tank without high explosives is really hard. It's just hard. So we didn't continue. Like I said, we ended up exiting and calling in for backup, and it turns out they send a Marine division, and Marines are good guys. They came in and blew the whole thing for us and got rid of all those tanks and everything. It was easier just to blow it up than clean it out. And the Marines did a good job of that, let me tell you. So, and the guy asked, well, what did I do wrong? we had a nice conversation after that, and he turned into a pretty good game master. He's still, as far as I know, he's still running games. But this was his first foray into Recon, and I thought it was kind of funny because, historically speaking, as far as I know, the VC stole 1 tank, and this guy had them buried over 200 yards. I mean, it had been a dozen of them down there. So, what do they got? They got a contract with the manufacturer, because you know they ain't stealing all these. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.